story time about how I paid off my husband's debt and then he confessed that he had an affair with my sister. By the way, if you want longer, spicier story time, subscribe to the podcast. Link in bio. My deadbeat husband is just that. He went to film school and incurred a bunch of debt. I, on the other hand, became a successful lawyer. But at the beginning, it was actually kind of good. He was funny, really charming. He was the first guy that ever really made me laugh. And this was so important to me, because if you can't make me laugh, I'm gonna be bored. When we first started dating, we were both completely broke. So at that point, we were on an even keel. Neither one of us was making more money than the other. But at the time, we did not have a mortgage, and he was not yet in film school. When we both graduated school, I was able to get a really high-paying job. And with that money, I paid off my student loans. Whereas my husband struggled to become the famous filmmaker he wanted to become. You see, he thought he was going to be the next Chris Nolan, and that did not happen. 5 years later, he was still struggling. He was making short films here and there, but to be honest, they were kind of crappy. And he always needed money. And guess who gave it to him? His successful lawyer of a wife. You know what? Yeah, I'm an enabler. Shouldn't have given him all the money he asked for. But the thing is, I thought I was advancing his career. I thought of it as an investment. But the situation became absolutely torturous last year. We wanted to buy a house, but he had a lot of debt, which meant he wasn't able to get a loan. This meant I was going to be 100% responsible for paying the house. That's when I decided to pay off his debt. This way we could both go in on a loan together so that we could get a better rate. And when I broke the news to him that I would pay off his loans, his face completely lit up. He started jumping up and down, thanking me. But of course, I wasn't going to give it to him for free. He needed to pay me back. And he said that he would within the next 10 years. Yeah, right. We jump on the laptop, I pay off his loans. That's when he starts to cry like a baby. I asked him what was wrong, and then he just blurted it out. I had an affair with your sister last year. I'm so sorry. Apparently, the guilt had been eating at him, and now that I paid off his loan, he felt even worse. As he's crying like a baby, he confesses that he had an affair with my sister. He says it only happened once, while I was away on a business trip. This is what he said happened. Years ago, my parents were getting their house renovated, but my parents and my sister came to stay at our apartment. During that time, I had a very important business trip. I was only gone for 3 nights. He says my parents went out to dinner, so him and my sister stayed alone in the apartment. And before he knew it, my sister threw herself on him, and he just couldn't say no because he felt bad about rejecting her. You heard that right, that was his excuse. I immediately call my sister up and she answers the phone. And when I ask her about it, she starts crying and tells me right then and there that they had been having an affair for 2 months. So no, it wasn't just a one-night thing. Apparently they both felt really bad about it though, but not bad enough to stop after one night. So I kicked him out. Because he has no money, he went back to live with his parents. I told my parents about my sister and they stopped paying for her tuition. So guess what? She had to get a job to pay for school. Okay, this is the part where you're gonna think I'm so stupid. I actually don't know if I should divorce my husband. I'm afraid he's gonna try to take all my money. And also, I still kind of love him. That's stupid, right?
When I tell this story to this day, people do not believe me. When I was a freshman in college, I was going to a private school in Pittsburgh. I was leaving the next year. I was going to a different school. So my friends and I, some of us were leaving, some of us were moving, whatever. We decided we wanted to kind of hit all the different spots in Pittsburgh that we really liked. So we went to like Mount Washington. For those of you who don't know, it's like a really nice lookout over Pittsburgh. And there was a place near our school and it was called the Fountain of Youth. It was essentially just like a well that people in the town used to go to when it was in use. So we went there. It was nighttime. It wasn't like midnight. It was like 9 or so. It wasn't super late. We went there, and the way that this well was set up, it was like carved. There was a piece carved out of a rock formation, and then you'd walk in and then get water out of the well inside of it. So the people who were like shorter or smaller, they went inside, and like I'm tall, so I wasn't gonna like go in there, but other girls were going inside and just like checking it out and seeing what it looked like. And the rest of us were standing outside taking pictures, just like messing around, waiting, hanging out, you know, talking. The girls inside, one of them said, "Hey, I can kind of hear like rocks moving around in here. It sounds like there's something else in here." And we were all like, "Oh, okay, well, that's probably an animal, so just like come out." So as she's like leaving and coming out and saying like, "I can hear something in here," the girls who are outside, me specifically, my phone died, turned off completely. It was at 70-80%. It was not anywhere close to dying. Turned off, died. Other girls' phones started dying. Then we heard a growl. And it did not sound like an animal. It sounded more like a human being trying to mimic what an animal sounds like when they growl. And we found this out later, that the girls inside the cave heard the same exact thing coming from inside the cave. We heard it outside in the woods. We all run and book it to the car. We get back. We're all like, we're done. That's it. Whatever. I'm going to take a shower. I'm changing and I see in the mirror handprints on my shoulder. Like someone just grabbed it like that and left those prints. I tell everybody, check yourselves because I just found this on myself. The one girl who was in the well lifts up her shirt. I look, she has 3 scratch marks down her back. I was like, nope, we're done. I started praying. I said, if there's something attached to us, get it away from us. I want no part of that. And that was it.
Will I be the astronaut if I uninvite my mom from my wedding for humiliating my future mother-in-law? Me and my fiance, Jake, both mid-20s, are getting married next month. All of this is stuff that's happened over the past several months. My future mother-in-law and mom do not get along at all. Both my and Jake's parents are long divorced. My future mother-in-law did a lot of the planning for the wedding, as neither me nor Jake knew what to do. She used to work as a wedding planner. My mom wrote us a check for $10,000 to put towards our wedding, which we did. When we were trying to decide on a venue and color scheme, we were really torn and asked Jake's mom for suggestions. She told us she had the perfect idea, and if we'd give her access to the wedding funds, she'd make arrangements. We did, and she reserved the venue and picked out a color scheme she felt matched us. I didn't mind too much because Jake and I are both extremely busy and had limited time to work on it. My mom and I had plans to go wedding shopping one weekend, and I had told future mother-in-law about our plans and invited her to join us. The weekend before, she came over to my and Jake's apartment saying she wanted to spend some girl time together and invited me out to lunch. I said yes, and we went to a sushi bar. Afterwards, she asked if I was okay driving and chatting for a bit, which I was. Future mother-in-law ended up stopping at a bridal boutique and encouraged me to look around. I didn't really want to that day, but it felt rude to say no, so we went in. I ended up falling in love with the dress, and it fit me fairly well, so it would only need minor alterations. I expressed I hope it's still here next weekend when my mom is with us. Future mother-in-law advised me to try on a few other dresses, which I did, but none felt the same as that dress. While I was getting dressed back in my regular clothes, future mother-in-law purchased the dress for me. I was thrilled, but my mom had promised to buy the dress for me, and I told future mother-in-law that my mom might be upset. Future mother-in-law assured me that she'd send my mom a Venmo request for the cost, and my mom could handle the alterations, so it would be like my mom paid for it. Again, I wasn't sure about this, but I said okay because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. Later, my mom called and asked why the hell Jake's mom was requesting money from her. I ended up telling her we had lunch and went impromptu dress shopping, and future mother-in-law bought the dress I fell in love with, and the Venmo request was for the cost of the dress. My mom was pissed off at future mother-in-law and accused her of stealing that experience from her. More questions were asked by my mom, and the topic of the venue came up. I had not yet seen the venue, nor had my mom, but with future mother-in-law's wedding planning background, I trusted her to pick something decent. The venue and color scheme / decorations future mother-in-law picked were the venue and colors she married her current husband at, which was the man she left Jake's father for about 10 years ago. After our convo ended, my mom texted future mother-in-law and basically blasted her over taking me dress shopping, booking that venue, accused her of trying to relive her own wedding through me and Jake, and told future mother-in-law she's manipulative as hell. Future mother-in-law ended up posting on Facebook that my mom doesn't want the wedding to happen, and my mom doesn't think that Jake is good enough for me. Not true, but future mother-in-law has a perchance for being a bit dramatic. This led to Jake's dad contacting my mom and asking why she thinks Jake isn't good enough for me to marry. My mom told Jake's dad that future mother-in-law is a lying biznatch, and she never said that. She ended up sending screenshots of the combo with future mother-in-law to Jake's dad, where she blasted future mother-in-law about taking me dress shopping and accusing her of trying to reenact her own wedding through Jake and me. Jake's dad ended up apologizing to my mom, but he took the screenshots and posted them in the comments under future mother-in-law's post about my mom, saying Jake isn't good enough for me. People saw and started questioning future mother-in-law about what really happened. Future mother-in-law ended up having a massive panic attack and had to go to the ER, where she voluntarily submitted to a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Now the wedding is in just over a month. Future mother-in-law is not comfortable at all around my mom and has told me if my mom is there, it's likely to trigger another panic attack for her, and she'll likely need an ambulance to get her to the wedding, to get her at the wedding. Jake says both of our moms should be invited. Just have them stay away from each other the whole time. However, future mother-in-law is scared that my mom will try to humiliate her again and has literally begged me in tears to uninvite my mom for her mental health. I told my dad I was considering uninviting my mom, and he thinks I'm in the wrong. It's rare that he sides with my mom on anything, and ended up telling me if I don't have my mom there, don't expect him there either, because he agrees with my mom's assessment about future mother-in-law. My siblings also agree if I uninvite my mom, they won't be there. I don't want my mom to miss my wedding, but I'm worried how future mother-in-law will react if she's around my mom and she has a history of panic attacks, and I don't want there to be drama at my weddings. I also want my dad and siblings there for my big day. If I didn't uninvite my mom, I'll do all I can to make it up to her after the wedding. Plus, I really don't want to start out my marriage on a negative note with future mother-in-law, and I know that would. Will I be the astronaut if I uninvited my mom for humiliating future mother-in-law and causing her panic attack, even though I'd risk my dad and siblings not coming to my wedding either?
I've honestly been waiting like 2 years to tell this story because it was kind of scary. We didn't want this person to see this video or find where we were, but I think it's been long enough now to talk about it. Also, ignore my self-tan hands. Really, I haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it. This started back in 2021, September, end of summer. I just started dating my boyfriend. We were sitting on the couch, drinking wine, just made some dinner, and we heard the doorbell ring. My boyfriend got up to answer the door. We weren't expecting anyone, so it was a little weird. He answered the door and I just hear this female voice talking. I looked around the corner because I thought it was kind of weird. There was this lady in her 30s, it looked like. She was wearing a black tight dress and really tall heels. This lady had a bottle of tequila in her hand and she handed it to my boyfriend and she was like, "I'm so sorry for the noise last night. I live in the unit directly below you. We were doing construction and I just wanted to bring this bottle of tequila to say sorry if it disturbed you guys at all." We were confused because we didn't hear any noise the night before. We were like, okay, it's fine. Like, thank you so much. It's okay. Don't worry about it. A few days go by. It's morning time, really early in the morning. We are just waking up, getting ready for work, and we hear the doorbell ring again. My boyfriend's roommate answered the door. I heard a bunch of commotion. So I open the door and I look outside and I see my boyfriend's roommate like shoving the door closed on this lady. So obviously it was the same lady as before. She had showed up at 8 in the morning, rang the doorbell, and she was wearing nothing but a towel, like completely naked in a bath towel with her hair wet. And she was trying to come into the apartment. She was like, "Who's there? Is it just you guys? Is it just you guys?" And he was like, yeah, like, what, can we help you? Like, what are you doing? And she tried to shove her way into the apartment. And my boyfriend's roommate had to slam the door on her and basically yell at her to get out. We didn't really know what to think of it. We thought maybe she thought they were cute and was trying to shoot her shot. And then she was pissed that they wouldn't let her in or something. We kind of just like let it go at the time. About a month goes by. Me and my boyfriend are getting ready to leave to go get sushi. We open the door and we look down and there's a folded up piece of paper on the doormat. We pick up the piece of paper and it is literally Morse code. A piece of paper with sentences on it, with punctuation, with lines and dots. I literally have a photo of it. Like, it was a Morse code note. I took pictures and videos of this entire ordeal that I can post, maybe. There's honestly so much to this story, so this is like a summarized version, but yeah. So on the way to sushi, I'm like looking up Morse code on my phone and I'm like deciphering this note. I finally got the whole thing decoded and it said, "Who are you and what exactly do you want from me? I'll be back in 30 minutes. We didn't really know what to do, so obviously we went to dinner. We were kind of expecting that when we got back there would be another one, and there was. Morse code note number 2. "If you truly want me, call me. I no longer trust you." We obviously had no idea who this person was, so we weren't responding to the Morse code notes, but it basically became a series of Morse code notes from this lady. She kept leaving them at the door. This was like a week-long thing. Every night she would leave a new one. It would always happen at like 6 or 7 p.m. Like, here's another one. "I don't understand. I will accept Tony, Leandro, or David. They need to call me today." And then just like some random stuff at the bottom. And then there's 3 more. The next one said, "Are they dead? I don't care if they moved on. I want to make sure they are alive and well, exclamation point, question mark. As for the other gentleman, I am not a prostitute. I need to get to know them first, nor your slave." Also, throughout this whole thing, kind of left out this part, she would come to the door and ring the doorbell over and over and over again. Ding, 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 ding. We wouldn't even answer the door. Like, we were scared of her, so we wouldn't even open the door. Most of the time, we would just stay and hide and be quiet. She would ring the doorbell over and over and over again, yell stuff through the door, and leave these notes. She randomly left a note that had the alphabet on it, and then when we opened it, she stopped using Morse code and she actually wrote in English this time. I don't understand, and unless you are specific on terms and whom you're suggesting, I don't get it, so I won't choose. FYI, you don't own me, and don't think for a minute that I forgot you were trying to ruin me. How can I ever trust you? P.S. The problem in my dreams was that. No open borders. Also, the way she was writing in that looked like someone who is clearly frantic, like it was scary. At this point, we know that we're dealing with someone who clearly has mental health issues. You never know what someone's capable of, so we didn't want to make the situation worse. So we kept ignoring it and leaving it alone. This whole thing basically started a series of months. This lasted like over a year. She would bang up on her ceiling at us with a broom at all hours of the night, like in the morning times, night times. But there was a period of time where she would come every single night and ring the doorbell over and over and over again. Here is a clip of how she would ring the doorbell when she would go crazy. I honestly have so many videos of that I can show a different time. But yeah, at this point, we decided to call the cops, told them what was going on. We asked them to come down and tell her to please leave us alone. Submitted a police report. We showed them all the notes and everything. And they would come down and they said that they would go knock on her door, but if she didn't answer, they couldn't do anything about it. We had called the cops multiple times because this kept happening. Even when they would come, like nothing would change. She would still do it again and they would do nothing really about it. They would say, we can't help you guys until she actually does something to hurt someone. One of the last interactions that we had with her, she came to the door, did the ringing the doorbell thing again. At this point, we would open the window, the kitchen window, because we could see it out by the door. We'd open the kitchen window and be like, please leave us alone, go away, like leave us alone. We would yell for help from the neighbors, being like, help, this lady is like harassing us. One of the last interactions that we had with her before we moved out and everything, she came to the window and she told us that she thought that we were paid actors and that we sent paid actors to her door. The cops were paid actors. We were paid actors. And that we sent paid actors to her door to harass her. The whole time, she told us that we were harassing her and we needed to leave her alone. She told the cops that we were harassing her. We needed to leave her alone. Clearly, she was just mentally ill, which we understand, but also we were being harassed, so it was a lot.
5 controversial things in my relationship, and if you don't know me, I'm literally engaged and I've been with my fiance for 3 years. Tell people these things, they kind of side eye, so let's see what you think about it. My fiance gives me his paychecks after every week. A lot of people think that this is weird, but my man is gonna pay for everything. Okay, like that's just how it be. Of course, he pays for when we go out, when we buy food, he pays for my credit card. I don't really pay for anything, so like all the money that I make just goes into my savings. So yes. I don't tell my friends or family any fights that go on in the relationship or any disagreements because like it's none of their business. Like, and we kind of just both do this. Like he doesn't tell his family members what goes on in our relationship and I don't tell my family members what goes on in our relationship because you're not in the relationship, so why do you care? And I truly believe that every relationship should do this. Like you should not be telling your mom or your sister or your friends like every disagreement or every single fight because they're gonna have that grudge in their head like, why are you mad about this if I'm past? You know what I mean? No, absolutely no celebrity crushes or crushes in general. I honestly believe that you should only have your eyes on your partner. Like you should not find anyone attractive or lust over anyone else other than your partner. Okay, you will never catch me talking about another dude that he's so hot or whatever. It doesn't matter if he's a celebrity. Absolutely not. Okay, like I don't find anyone else attractive other than my partner because I don't look at other men like that. You know what I mean? And he is the same way. We both don't have friends of the opposite gender, and it's not like I'm controlling him and telling him not to be friends with or he's controlling me. It's just like we both like mutually agreed that like we don't need to have like friends of the opposite gender. You know what I mean? Like unless it's like for work or business reasons, like other than that, like we just don't really care to have friends that are in the opposite gender. We discuss big purchases with each other. Like before we spend a couple $100s, we're both gonna talk about it because our money is kind of shared, even though most of the money is in my account. We still like talk about it. You know what I mean? You have to think about it as you and your partner are a team. Any financial decision that is going to affect us, we should both talk about it. We both have our passwords on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. He lets me go through his phone. I let him go through my phone whenever he wants to. And it's not like I am doing a daily like, okay, it's 9:00, let me go through your phone. No, it's just like if I want to go through his phone, he's not going to be like, you can't go through my phone. You know what I mean? Like we're just open. He drives always, okay? You'll never catch me driving, okay? Not only am I super afraid of driving, like I have a fear because I grew up with trauma, always experiencing car crashes, you know what I mean? So he obviously understands that.
I'm going to explain the Kendrick and Drake beef, but I am going to do it for the girls. This is for the girls that are confused. They're like, wait, what's happening? I don't get it. I'm going to give you a Spark Notes version in like how I view it as a girl. Okay, so the boys are fighting. Like there's a lot of backstory that like I really don't give a fuck about, but all we need to know is Drake released a song called Push Ups. It was like a diss track at Kendrick, and I would assume Metro, like me describing this is actually so funny. But there was a line in that song, Drake was like, Metro, shut your hoe ass up. If I was Metro, I would have lost my fucking mind. I would have been like, he needs to be so fucking for real right now. Whatever, Drake's calling out Kendrick about like the split of his manager. I don't know, like that shit, right? Then Kendrick drops Euphoria. Well, Drake did some weird shit with AI, but then Kendrick drops Euphoria, which is a really good song, girls. Like I really recommend listening to it. And in Euphoria, Kendrick is basically like, I hate you. I literally hate you so fucking much. I hate everything about you. It's like, oh my God, wow. Then I think Kendrick released another song. I didn't really listen to that one that much. Then Drake releases a song called Family Matters. In that, he's like, Kendrick, you literally beat your fiance. It was like, oh really? He was like, you literally beat her. And it was just like, whoa, that's a lot of information. And Kendrick's like, oh, you're gonna like talk about family? Like, let's talk about family. And like 30 minutes after Drake released that track, Kendrick dropped his track called Meet the Grams. And the most important part of that one is that Drake is on Ozempic. The cover art of it was like Drake's suitcase or dad's suitcase or whatever. But like, girls, Drake is on Ozempic. Like, Drake is on Ozempic, and I'm not judging him, but it's just really interesting that he's on Ozempic. That song got really deep because Kendrick, like, wrote a letter to every single person in Drake's family and, like, was like, Drake, I want you to die. Really intense. Then Drake doesn't even respond. Kendrick drops another song, and this is like the best song yet, Not Like Us. And it's so fucking good. Like, I listen to it literally all the time. Go listen to that one. It's really fucking good. And in that song, Kendrick is like, Drake's a pedophile. Okay, Drake's a pedophile. And everyone on Drake's, allegedly, and everyone on Drake's team is a pedophile, apparently. And Kendrick is just going crazy. My opinion, Kendrick ate. Like, Kendrick ate with that. To me, it would have been over with. Like, Kendrick ate, but like, no, Drake had to come back with something. Drake was like, I don't like children. I never touched Millie Bobby Brown. And everyone was like, nobody said a fucking word about Millie Bobby Brown. But then he was like, Kendrick's been touched. As a kid, like, he's been touched. It's like really out of pocket. Oh my God, wait, the most important part. He's saying Kendrick's like best friend, business partner, I don't know what they do together really, is apparently like has a child with Kendrick's fiance. And Drake ends the song by being like, Kendrick's fiance, you can hit me up, like, don't be scared of me, because apparently, allegedly, Kendrick was like beating his wife or fiance. Listen, I don't know what the fuck is going on. What I gather from all of this is that like Kendrick really hates Drake. Drake is on Ozempic, allegedly, and Not Like Us is like the best record I feel like I've heard from Kendrick. Like literally, I think that's my favorite Kendrick song ever now. Oh, and Baby Keem is sexy. Like I realized that too throughout their beef. But like the girls are fighting. Like and apparently there was a shooting. Don't know anything about that. I'm not a news outlet. Don't know anything about that. Like the girls are hitting below the belt. I don't know how rap beefs end or like how that shit ends. Drake is on Ozempic. Allegedly. That is just like the funniest thing to me. There's a lot more about like Rick Ross, but like I'm like, I don't want to get into that.
My 13-year-old son got punched by his girlfriend's dad. My son is only 13. He has a girlfriend who he met at school. Today he went over at her house. I've met and talked to her mom, but not her father. My son texted me asking me to pick him up. It was earlier than I expected. I went to get him and I was horrified to find him with a bloody nose. My son refused to tell me what happened until we were home. I was cleaning his face and he told me, very hesitantly, what happened. He said that his girlfriend's parents told her to keep her door opened. He said she closed it anyway because, you know. He said her dad stormed in, grabbed him and punched him in the face and yelled at him to never disrespect his house or his daughter again. I told my son that is not okay and that he's never ever going there again. I'm so upset. I can hear my heart beating. There was no reason for this man to attack my son, a child. I texted the mother and she said she's so sorry and embarrassed. I called my husband and sent him a picture of our son's face. I was crying and told him what happened to our son. My husband said, I get it, but he has no right to lay hands on my boy. I'll go over there and see if he's as tough with me as he was with our kid. I asked my husband if that's the best idea. I just don't want any trouble. He said, of course it is. It's my job to defend my family. He told me to calm down and to let him handle it from here. This is a nightmare as a mother. My son is a little boy and was their guest.
My wife's best friend has always tried to insert herself in my life, and when my wife was knocked out, she tried to get inserted and cried grape when I refused her advances and decked her in the face. I, 35M, have been with my beautiful wife, 34F, for close to 10 years, and we have no kids as of now. My wife's best friend, I'll call her Amy, has been friends with my wife for about 15 years, all throughout college where I originally met my wife. Myself and Amy haven't ever been the best of friends, however, we've been cordial for the sake of my wife. I've always found her to be obnoxious, loud, and entitled, the kind that inserts herself into any and every conversation, whether that be on a night out with friends or a private conversation. For example, my best friend and I were talking about fertility issues in his marriage during a dinner with our longtime friends. We were quiet enough so that nobody could hear us over the chatter, yet she found a way to be nosy and make a comment on how she would off herself if she couldn't do the one thing a woman was made to do. This pissed off my best friend and his wife to the point where they excused themselves and left early to go home. Now onto the actual situation at hand. Amy's boyfriend, I'll call him Khalid, had left her due to her annoying personality. I think it was more of a build-up, but what set him off was when Amy purposely did not feed their dog while he was on a work trip, because he was sleeping while she was drunk and calling him to pick her up. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Amy has always been weird with me. She has constantly tried to DM me on Instagram, trying to make conversation about gossip in our friend group or completely random things, and I have always ignored her. My wife has always seen past her strange behavior, and she refused to believe her dearest best friend would have ill intentions. Anyway, after their breakup, Amy came over to our house to see my wife. My wife was feeling ill on this day, so she took some meds to help her fall asleep and was out within an hour. I could not ask Amy to leave in the state she was in, so for my wife's sake, I suggested she could sleep in the guest bedroom. She agreed and went to bed. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner, and she waltzed into the kitchen with nothing but undergarments on. She acted shocked and claimed she didn't know I was still in the kitchen. I felt extremely uncomfortable and decided to call it a night. However, she started undressing and approaching me, telling me how my wife doesn't have to know and she's seen the way I've looked at her. I was completely baffled and told her she'd gotten the wrong idea and should be ashamed to do this to her own best friend while I tried to scurry out of the kitchen. However, she practically leapt in front of me and touched my manhood through my pants. Without a second thought, I hit her. I know I could have easily pushed her, but in the moment, I panicked and punched her in the face. She started wailing, enough that my wife woke up and stumbled into the kitchen to see her best friend, exposed and bruised. She then went on about how I tried to grape her and that I'm a disgusting human being and she should divorce me. I snapped back that she approached me, undressed, and a rejection wasn't enough for her to back off, so I punched her, hence the bruise. My wife didn't say anything. Instead, she fainted and fell on her side, and I immediately brought her to the hospital. My wife is now okay but refuses to talk to me about what happened. On the other hand, Amy has now accused me of attempting to grape her in our friend group. The majority of people don't believe her, but there's a few who always believe a grape accusation. The other half told me I messed up by punching her and fueling this anger. Amy has ruined my life, and I'm afraid my wife will divorce me and this goes to court. I've already contemplated sewer slide many times. I don't know where to go from here. Edit. My wife was in an abusive household when she was a teenager, and Amy helped her get out of there. She feels like she owes her life to Amy, and they are practically like sisters. Also, Amy was not drunk that night. Update 1. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their support, input, and advice, which I have used profusely in this situation. For the people who proceeded to say I should have smashed with Amy or me calling me a sicko, I truly hope you find peace in your lives. Now onto the update. A lot has happened in the past 9 hours. Someone made a suggestion to text Khalid, and so I did. Khalid was just as distraught as me and admitted that this was, in fact, not the first time she has screamed grape, just like some of you had suspected. She has threatened to scream grape to force Khalid to stay in the relationship with her. He got out of it by installing cameras without her knowledge and contacting a lawyer in case she went through with her claims. This worked in my favor, and he was very supportive and sympathetic. I confronted Amy with all the fallacies in her story and mentioned the existing evidence Khalid still had if she was interested in taking her claims to court. She panicked and told me no, apologized, and said she wasn't in her right mind after the breakup. I got her to admit this in the group chat as I am not interested in false rumors spreading about me in case someone was still unsure of the situation. She shortly left the group chat and has cut off contact with everyone. In other words, she has become unreachable. I explained to my wife what had happened, and she had seen all the messages with her confession anyway. My wife told me she genuinely didn't know who to believe and was contemplating divorce in that moment. I was heartbroken. I told her I needed time to process everything that had happened in the past 14 hours, and I will be sleeping in the guest bedroom tonight. I am happy she believes me now, but it doesn't sit well with me that it took an actual confession out of Amy for my wife to side with me. I have been with my wife for 10 years and would expect her to know me better than that, but at the same time, she didn't know Amy was capable of something like this in 15 years. My marriage has definitely taken a hit with this situation. Although I love my wife and have seen past every other time she has defended Amy, this situation is something I can't get over overnight. I thank you all for helping me navigate this situation. Edit. I am very aware and understanding of my wife's situation. She feels indebted to Amy, and there's definitely a power play at hand. However, my wife has laughed off the incident and dismissed the fact of how traumatizing it was for me. She still refuses to see Amy as the villain and is blaming it on the emotional heartbreak of her breakup. Update 2. So it's been a bit over 2 months since the incident occurred. Needless to say, it's been a hectic 2 months. I tried to make it work, I really did. For 2 months, I tried to brush it off and dealt with my wife still having frequent hangouts with Amy and telling me about them all excitedly as if her own best friend didn't just try to smash with me. However, the last straw was a few days ago when my wife was telling me how she and Amy are planning a trip to Greece for the summer holidays and how she can't wait to finally have a break from life's stresses. I simply said nothing and walked away from her. She followed me and asked me if everything was okay, and I straight up told her how I can't believe she would dismiss the fact that Amy accused me of rape when in actual fact she forced herself onto me. I told her how when it came to Amy, she believed her and was willing to divorce me on the spot, but when it came to me, she brushes it off and continues to have her girly hangouts with the very friend who tried to destroy our marriage. I blatantly told her she doesn't care for me. My wife started bursting into tears and had the audacity to ask me, "At that again? Why can't you just get over it?" I don't know why I thought she would have listened now. I had enough at that point and told her we're getting a divorce. I walked away and started to pack my suitcase as she tried her hardest to stop me. She pulled my shirt, hit me, threw things, and went from calling me names to begging me to stay. I walked out and am now staying at a hotel while she and her family blow up my phone. I don't know what to do.